Hello everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome to a new playthrough on the channel. After our adventures ending Christmas in Arkham yesterday, and our third game of the three-game set between Arizona and Boston in payoff pitch baseball, we're back to the air war in our alternate World War II timeline, where Germany has declared war on the United States and has won World War II, at least on the European theater. The Germans now have a base in the Azores, a forward base that they're using to bomb the United States. But we played the other side of this earlier this month as we played Amerika Bomber, Evil Queen of the Skies. This time, in this game, we're going to switch sides in playing Defending America, Intercepting the Amerika Bombers. So this game, as I mentioned, we're switching sides from Amerika Bomber. We're the fighters intercepting the Amerika Bomber. But before we see our fighter, we need to go through flight school first. I've got our details of flight school in shot right here, and I've got the appropriate charts off shot. So first for flight school, we need to go through gunnery training. We're going to roll 3 times on the fighter damage chart using the 9 firepower column, and if none of these is a miss, we'll place the gunnery -1 marker on chart A2, which means the gunnery skill will cost 1 less experience point to purchase. So, let's see what we roll here. We don't want to see a 3 or a 4. That's an 8, which would be a 4 hit. Next up. I'm just making notes in my logbook. That's a 7, which would translate to 4 hits again. And our last skill, which would give us which could give us gunnery. That's another 7. So we will get all right, let me find the gunnery -1 shit in here. Oh, look at that. So I'll put that on the gunnery skill. I believe I have to decide which one I'm going to be. I'll be a U.S. Navy pilot this time. Let's see. Skill is gunnery -1. I believe we get that choice. I believe we don't have to roll for it, but let me look. General setup. Your starting base and unit. Oh, we'll roll for that later. But I do get the gunnery skill regardless. I'm just going to use one of those to organize everything for the time being. Next, for flight school, we have landing training. So we're rolling 3 times on the landing chart with a +1 trainee modifier. As long as none of those result in a rough landing, we'll get the landing skill for free. So we have a +1 trainee modifier. I'm just making notes once again. And they said 3 times. Nine +1 is 10, which results in a safe landing. Four +1 is 5 is also safe. And 7 +1 is 8 is also safe. Which means we get the landing skill for free. Here we are. Landing skill will also go on my... There we are. Next up we have parachute training, which will have us rolling 3 times on the parachute chart. And if none of those result in a light wound, we'll get the parachute skill for free as well. That's a 2d6. This one is probably going to fail out, but let's see. We need a 1 to 5 on those. That's a 6, so that would be a light wound. Seven would also be a serious wound. And a 5 would be our only safe parachute. So we don't get the parachute skill for free. Next up we have flight training. Just finishing up my notes here. So now we have to roll a 2d6. Roll 9 to 12 results in a success, and we receive the ACM -1 marker on chart A2, which means the ACM skill will cost us 1 less air combat maneuvering to acquire. So let's see what happens here. That's a 6, so we fail flight training. And now we have a spare time activity. And I'm a firm believer that learning about the enemy is one of the smartest things you can do so you know how to hit them hardest. So we're going to go for extra study time. Which the player spends his spare time learning all he can about the various aircraft and their performance. Gains the Expert -1 marker, which is placed on his aircraft display mat. Each time he buys the Expert skill, it costs 1 less experience point. So we'll grab the Expert chit, which would allow me to re-roll. So we'll talk a little bit about what each skill does for us after I fish them all out. That's ACM. I'll move those there. Here we go. Expert -1. So talking a little bit about what each skill does. Gunnery, if I'm able to purchase that skill, that's +1 random hit if any hits are scored. Then the landing that we got gives us a -1 modifier on our landing, and the Expert -1 means it makes it easier for us to buy the Expert skill. We can become an expert in the current aircraft, and it allows us to reroll 1 attack per sortie if we wish to. And then we have to use the result of the new roll even if we do less damage. I imagine I'd mostly use that skill defensively, but that's just my initial musing on that. We do need to assign our base, though. But I don't think we ever established if I get the choice on receive your starting base and unit. I think we're going to start right at the start of the game. So, yeah, it looks like I get the choice of if I want to be in the Army Air Force or the Navy. I get a choice of any branch. If I want to be an Army Air Force pilot, a Navy pilot, or a Marine pilot. I think I'm going to be in the... I think I'm going to stick with what I was setting up and be a Navy pilot. So I'll be a Navy pilot, which means I'll roll a d6 for my starting base. I will be starting... A 4 means I'll be based on the USS Saipan. And based in Zone 5. My aircraft will be the F-8F-1 Bearcat. Let me fish that. Oh, I've got that right here. Look at that. So there's our aircraft. Take a quick look at that. I'll bring that over to the main play area, which now we can follow the aircraft over there and take a look at everything over there. I'm just checking out the shot here. Looks like I've got everything I need in shot. The dice tower is just off shot. I can bring that in whenever I'm ready for it, but I think we're ready to get into this playthrough, so let's jump into our first sortie. Okay. I forgot these are double-sided with the entire game in there, so this one doesn't start in October 1947. This one starts in April 1947. I'll transfer everything else over to the new log later, which I can also use one of these. I had started on the back, forgetting that each sortie log is for one career, essentially. So, first order of business, though, now that we've got the log situation sorted out, is we need to figure out where the raid's going. So the raid target... Once again, the way we're going to do that is we got 2d6 in the cup. We're going to use black as 10s, white as 1s. Rather than adding together and getting the sum, we're going to combine them. So if we get a roll of, say 3, 5 like that, we'd read that as 35 and go over to the raid chart. Just as a clarification of that. So now this is the official roll. So our first raid is on a 55. They're going to Standard Oil in Linden, New Jersey, which is also Zone 5. Which is also where we're based. So the incoming raid moves to Zone 1. We have an option to lift off, but it's going in any zone, but it's going to take us a turn before we get airborne. So we're going to move them to zone. Actually, let me bring my plane over into my base. So they moved to Zone 2. I don't think we're going to lift off just yet. They're going to move to Zone 3, and now we will lift off, which will move our fuel marker on takeoff. Zone 4, I think we're going to sit tight. Zone 5, we're going to roll for interception. Which also cost us another box of fuel. So now we have to roll on the interception chart to see what we make contact with. And 8 says we make contact with an ME-364. I'm just going to make some notes here. Zone 1, no liftoff. Zone 2, actually Zone 2 I think we did. No, we didn't lift off until Zone 3, I think. Zone 5, contact with an ME-364. So now we need a couple of different things in shot. We need to redo this a little bit. Okay, we don't have any escorts present that we need to worry about, but we do need to roll for our position and altitude. So I'm going to roll the D10 for the position and a D6 for the altitude. The D10 is going to be a number of approaches, and then D6, 1 to 2 is low, 3 to 4 medium, 5 to 6 high, unless we end up at vertical dive or vertical climb. So let's see where we're approaching from. We're approaching from this approach, so approach 6, and we're approaching at high altitude. There should be an altitude marker in here. So target zone is Zone 5. We're going to start at long range. Oh, here we are. So we're starting at long range, And I thought there was an altitude marker in here. Let me look through the craft tray real quick. Apparently there is not, which is a little weird, but I think we can make do with that. I think we'll go range. We'll use that as our altitude marker. That'll work. All right, so just making some notes here. Approaching from 6 high. Okay, so now we've got all that set up. We're going to generate one less hit starting from long range. We're going to use our, we've got our 50 caliber forward guns, which is what we're going to use. That's a 6 power, so we'll be rolling 2d6 on the fighter damage chart to the bombers. So based on that, we have to also designate an aim point. We're going to aim at, so we have to designate our aim point being a choice of port wing, starboard wing, or airframe. And I think I'm going to take a shot at the starboard wing. All right, let's give that a roll and see what happens here. That's a 3, which means we miss. That's not great. And now the bomber gets a roll as well. Their defensive firepower is 7. We'll see how many hits they deal. Just making some notes here. Long range, firepower 7. That's a 2, 7. They'll deal 1 hit. Actually, I believe long range modifies that for both sides. Long range interceptor generates 1 less hit, 1 extra random hit at all ranges. This negates the -1 at long range. For no modifier at long. Okay, so they do generate the 1 hit. Which means we're going to be rolling another 2d6 and combining those. I believe that chart is right here. Fighter damage. Yep. So the fighter damage here that they're dealing. (61) is the forward cannon. Which I believe just knocks out my nose guns. Let me just double check here. Yep. So my forward guns are toast. Means they're out for this sortie, which means I probably should just break off at this point. Yes, I will just. So yeah, I will just break off I'm just going to break off my combat here with my forward weapons out. Which means we'll bring the map right back in shot. Let's see if we can land this plane. First we need to roll for the weather. A 1 says it's good weather. Which means we'll get our -1 modifier for our landing skill. So now we're rolling a 2d6 to see if we can put this plane down. And remember, we're at -1, so we should be able to put this thing down. Actually, we're at +1 trying to land on a carrier, so this is going to be a net 0 roll. And 9, yeah, we get a safe landing out of that. Okay, and since we have boarded early, everything will be repaired. And I believe we should be able to go straight into our next sortie. I'm just going to double check that, but we'll probably be back here right away for our next sortie in April 1947. Let's actually bring the dice tower back in shot, and we'll see where our second raid is going to be targeting this time. This is our second sortie in April 1940, is 65. It was looking at Chrysler in Detroit. Just going to make some notes here. Alright, so the raid is going to move to Zone 1. I'm not going to lift off. Zone 2, I don't think I'm going to lift off yet either. Zone 3, now I will lift off. Which means it'll take me a turn. So I'm lifting off with the raid in Zone 3. In Zone 4, I'm going to move in and try to intercept. Let's see what we are able to roll here, if anything. So we take off. We took a turn to intercept. So Zone 4, we're going to try to roll 4. We're going to roll for our interception, a 2d6. That's an 8, which is no contact in Zone 4. Then we're going to follow the raid to Zone 5 and see if we do get contact. We should, though. Because I believe in Zones 5 or 6, no contact is converted to the bomber type shown in parentheses. That's a 4, so we'll make contact with an HE-277. So that means I need to redo the shot once again. Once again, we need to see where we're attacking from. We're attacking from approach 1 at high altitude. So we're attacking from here, and we're at high altitude. We're targeting the HE-277. So we're starting at long range, and once again we're going to use our we only have our forward guns to use. So we'll give it a roll on chart B2A and see what happens. With a firepower of, what did we say, 6. We're aiming at so we're coming at it from approach 1 high. We're going to aim at the airframe this time. Long range, we get a -1 hit if we deal any hits. That's a 4, which I believe with firepower 6, with firepower 6 is another miss. That's delightful. Now for the bomber's got defensive firepower 7. So we're rolling 1d6 for that. A 2 is, once again, 1 hit. Hopefully this won't knock out our forward weapon, our forward cannon again. But the only way to find out, only way to see what it knocks out is to roll. Actually, let me finish making a note in here. That's a 15, which, oh boy, that knocks out our landing gear. So landing gear is damaged, which is going to cause us problems on landing, I'm sure. Yes. Means the plane might have a crash landing when it returns to base. So it'll be a +1 on landing gear. There you are. All right, but we do get to move into close range this time. We're still at high altitude. So we're going to use our forward guns again. Still a firepower of 6, but now we're at medium range, so we actually get our normal hit modifier. We get our normal hit count if we can roll hits. And the way we're rolling today, I don't like our chances of that. That's a 9, though. That actually might be a little better roll. Let's see, with firepower 6 on a roll of a 9. Oh, we were aiming at the airframe again. So that's going to be 3 hits this time, aiming at the airframe. So I believe that brings us over here. Okay, so the bomber random damage, which means we roll a d10, so we get 3 hits out of that. So we need our d10, and since we were aiming at the airframe, we'll get results based on that. All right, a 4 means we have a random wing hit. I believe it can't be as simple as evens for port. Random wing hit. All right, so it looks like we roll on the wing side for the right. Yeah, I believe we aim at the. I believe we roll for a wing hit on that. So now we'll move over to the wing column. A 9 will be an outboard engine. And we'll roll the black die as well. Evens we'll hit the port outboard engine. Odds will hit the starboard. Evens will hit the port outboard engine. So there we are. Damaged chit. Port outboard engine. And that was still our first hit. So we're still aiming at the... Remember, we're still aiming at the airframe. That hit just happened to move us over to the wing column. Our next hit is actually an airframe hit. So that'll put a 1 on the airframe, and our last hit... Our last hit on the air, our last hit from medium range. Wow, that's a Bombay hit. We might actually just take this thing out. I believe there's a roll if we hit the Bombay. It may cause a detonation, requires a 2d6 roll. So we need to roll for... So we need a 2d6 roll, and we want a 10 or up. That's a 5, so no effect. We didn't manage to hit the bombs, which is unfortunate. But now the bomber gets to roll a hit. Gets to roll for a hit, and he's +1 being at medium range and assumed to be in formation. I believe. Yes. So we get a d6 roll on that. Firepower of 7 defensive. That's a 1, so he actually misses. Which means now we'll move into close range. And we're still going to aim at the airframe. Alright, so this will be our last, most likely our last combat round for this sortie. So we're a +1 hit, and we're rolling our 2d6 once again. That's a 7, which I believe gives us, with a firepower of 6, yep, gives us another 3 hits. Actually, 4 hits because we're close. So we've got our D10, we're still aiming at the airframe. So let's see what happens here. Is there a damage marker for the bomb? Actually, we're down here. I was looking at the ME364. I should have been using the HE277. So, 3 hits on the, actually 4 hits on the airframe. 1 is another airframe hit. My pen is over here. Next hit. Four is another random wing hit. So we'll roll the d6 again on the wing hit this time. Four is back to the airframe, which is actually where we were aiming at. We need 1 more airframe hit to take that out, and we've got 2 more hits that we're rolling. So our third hit. Five is a controls hit. Let's see, controls, place a damage marker per hit. Okay, so we'll place, actually I think we place another one of these on the controls. And our last hit, a 9 is the starboard side engine. Odds we'll roll the d10. Odds for inboard, evens for outboard. Evens, it'll be an outboard engine hit. Then the bomber at close range. And remember, we're plus 2 random hits with the engine in formation, or with the bomber in formation. Oop, that should be a d6 roll, not a d10. Defensive firepower of 7. That's a 6, so he'll score 5. Actually, he'll score 6 hits. 3, 4, 5, 6. It would be 4 plus 2 for being in formation, for being close range and in formation. Is where I'm getting that from. So, our first random hit. .45 is a starboard wing hit, which is not great. Yeah, starboard wing first hit. Right. Just making some notes in my logbook. Second hit. Actually, that's what this is for. So now we've still got 5 hits coming in. .13 is another starboard wing hit. This is a problem. Because if we start running through these, Because if we get another starboard wing hit, then we're going to be shot down very early in the career. So now we're on hit number 3. .32 is minor damage. Well, the craft will fly that off. But we are far from out of the woods on this one, because we've still got 3 more hits that we're rolling for. .51 is a tail hit, which isn't great either. Tail hit is a first hit as well. That takes 3 hits. So we're on hit number 5 right now, which is a huge problem for us. A 55. That's our 3rd airframe. Actually, no, that's our first airframe hit. We may dodge a bullet here, but our aircraft is definitely Swiss cheese. We're probably going to be getting a new one for the next sortie. And our last hit. A 26 is a controls hit. So we kind of dodge a bullet on that one. So we'll grab that. Alright, so we will definitely be breaking off, because that was our 3rd round of combat, so we do have to... Actually, the wingman would become damaged as well on the roll of a 6. So the wingman's damaged. Oh wait, wingman removes the bomber's bonus damage of +1 hit at all ranges. Okay. Alright, so we do break off. And I think with that, we're going to be... we're going to be breaking off, and we're going to see if we can land this thing. So let's bring the main map back in shot. The HE-277 got away from us, so now we're going to see if we can land this thing. Let's see if we can land this plane. First we need to roll for the weather, though. That's going to be a D10 roll. I'll move that out here for a second. Weather... That's bad. I believe a 9 is bad weather, so we're making this roll at +2, which would be +3 because the landing gear is damaged, but we get a -1 back because of our landing skills. So this is a net +2. Just making some notes. Bad weather. +2 mod. +1 for damaged landing gear. And -1 landing skill. So again, this is so net +2. Let's roll our 2d6 and see if we land this thing. Or more accurately, let's roll this and see how bad the damage is. That's an 11 + 2 is 13, which is going to turn into a rough landing. And the pilot will receive a light wound, which he'll probably walk off for the next sortie. And how many hits did we take on that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the aircraft will be written off and we'll get a new one for the next sortie. But I think this is probably a good place to stop the video. I don't like getting too crazy with these sorties, especially the first time that I'm featuring a game on the channel. where the first time I play the game. Actually, let me finish making my notes before I. Actually, I can probably talk while I'm making those notes. But where I'm going with this is the first time I feature these games. I like to keep it somewhat under control, just to help me get the feel for the game before I go crazy on how many missions I want to do with it, or I may end up kind of liking the flow of how one mission fits with within each video. Is kind of, I'm rambling a little bit, but that's basically where I'm going. So new plane without missing a sortie. Okay, so that will actually do it for this playthrough of Defending America, Intercepting the Amerika Bombers. We may have something small tomorrow, but I'm not completely betting on that. Or not tomorrow. We may have something small this afternoon, but I'm not betting on that. Just because I've got a few things going on that I want to take care of around here, and it's actually my social game night at my local game store. So I'm not completely sure if we'll be doing anything small on the channel tonight. But what we will be doing tomorrow, I'm just going to look at my schedule here so I can see what I've got lined up. I need to go to the right tab. There we are. Looks like tomorrow we're actually continuing with the air war over Europe as we step back into our background play of Night Fighter Ace. Thank you for watching the video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications so you get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care everyone.